If your family has a trust in Canada, there's a tax event coming at year 21. Now, you probably know the date, but here's the thing that most owners miss. The date was actually never the real risk. The real risk is what's been building inside of that trust the whole time while nobody was watching. And what surprises people isn't the date, it's what they've actually found when they finally look. Here's the one thing that you're going to walk away with. The date is the easy part. Anyone can mark it on a calendar, and the families who keep what they built aren't the ones who remember the date. They're the ones who looked inside early and got ahead of what they found. Quick context. In case this is the first time we're meeting, I'm Henry Wong, a CPA CA with 20 years in practice, and I've personally trained over 10,000 CPAs across Canada. And I spent years inside Rogers, one of Canada's most iconic family-controlled companies, and between that, as well as 2 decades of advising, I saw how family enterprises really run and how rarely anyone talks about the structure underneath them. That's why I wrote the book, The 7 Structures of Wealth. And that's the lens I'm going to be bringing to our conversation today. A few years back, I sat with a family I admired. I called him the Roaster. Not his title, just what he was proud of. They ran several coffee franchises, and what set them apart wasn't the stores, it was actually everything behind them. They owned the beans right at the source, it was fair trade, it was organic, and it was really farm to cup. He could actually account for all of it. He came to me about cash flow. And so we started there. And like I do on every file, I pulled the trust and looked at the date it was set up. He knew the date, so I didn't ask about it. I asked something else. When was the last time anyone actually looked inside this trust? Not just filed it, but looked at it. Well, he went quiet because nobody had. Return got filed every year. The date sat in a drawer and nobody had looked at what was building inside of it. So here's a man who actually controls every input into his coffee down to the bean, and you'd think he'd want that same control over his own financial future. He had a trust in his mind. That part was already handled. But a trust is never done. It actually has a clock running inside of it, 21 years to be precise. He watched every bean, he never watched his curve. So here's what we found when we looked. After he set up that trust, he didn't slow down. He opened location after location after location. He grew the enterprise substantially. And every dollar of that growth compounded inside of that trust because that's where the shares live. So the number wasn't small, his success built it. Now here's what waits at year 21. The law treats the trust like it sold everything inside it at full value, even though nothing was sold. All that growth becomes a taxable gain in 1 year. His structure was built to hold, it was just never built to pay. Now here's the good part. He wasn't careless, there was a real gap, and because we found it with runway, we closed it before the event arrived. So when year 21 came, it wasn't a crisis, it was handled on his terms without any fire sale. So this is about timing, not tax. Here's the part I really want you to get. This was never mainly about avoiding tax. You can't make this gain disappear. The point is timing. What a trust actually buys you is deferral. The gain sits untaxed for now, while your money stays inside and working instead of going to the government early. That has real value. But deferral is not forgiveness, and the tax didn't vanish. It got pushed. And that 21-year event is the day it comes due. So the real question was never, how do I dodge this? It's actually this. The deferral is ending. Am I built to meet it on my terms, or does it meet me on its? And one upgrade in how you hold this, that 21-year mark isn't really a deadline. It's a triggering event. And it's not the only one. The death is one. A sale is one. Stepping back from the business is one. They all ask your structure the same question. Can you produce cash on time without tearing things apart? The 21-year one is just the one you can see coming from 20 years out. Because an event you can name is an event you can build for. You don't get ready the month it hits. You build for it years ahead. So when it comes, the structure does the work, not you. So here's the bigger picture. Remember the book, The 7 Structures of Wealth? Well, The last two are the ones almost nobody manages, which is structure 6 on wealth integration, whether all your pieces actually work together. Then there's structure 7, which is legacy continuity. What happens as the things you built reach their limits and pass to the next generation. The 21-year event sits right on top of both. The trust couldn't pay its own bill because it wasn't integrated. That's 6. And the event itself is the structure hitting the limit on the way to the next generation. That's 7. So it was never just a tax. It was a continuity problem dressed as a tax bill. So here's the one thing to do this week. Don't go find the date, you already know it. Look inside instead. Ask one question. If a triggering event hit this year, where does the cash come from? If you don't have a clean answer, that's your gap. And it's worth a real conversation with the right people at the table. More on who those people are later in the series. So the reason I connected with this family is that they did it the honest way. It was slow, it was deliberate, it was disciplined, no shortcuts. Working with the land, not against it. That's how I think about wealth as well. There's no trick that beats building the right thing early. You can't outsmart the event, you can only be ready for it. That's the whole game. You can build for whatever is coming, or you can let it decide for you. One of those is a choice, while the other isn't. If this is how you want to think about what you built, subscribe. I'm breaking the whole thing down across this series, what a trust actually is, how you pay the bill when it comes, who should be at the table. The next one might be the gap in your own structure. I'm Henry Wong, the Wealth Structurist. And remember, no one cares about your wealth more than you do.